Steve Ross here at the 2023 Cactus Classic, which just so happens to be the home of the qualifier for the Run for $1 Million, and I have two very esteemed guests today. On my left, Deary, NRHA professional, won just about every title that isn't nailed down. And to my right, NRHA's all-time leading rider, Andrea Fappani, who has also won just about every title in the NRHA, with the exception of this one, gentlemen. This one has both eluded you.
Yes.
And I know you're looking forward to this fall, but you're both in the enviable position. Casey, I'll start with you. You're already qualified and replacing in the shootout last year, so you're merely a coach and spectator here at this qualifying round. What's that going to be like not to be an active participant?
Well, Steve, you've misjudged the whole situation. The gates are open, and I will be competing.
All right.
I brought a horse named Living on a Prayer to show in the Derby part, and I'm hoping that I can win enough to pay for all the tires that I put on my rig when I got here.
Well, that is interesting, and I wish you well in that effort. I, of course, meant that you don't have to show one in the Run for $1 Million portion. You're not going to come to one of these events without a good Derby horse. Now, talk about your run in the qualifier last year, able to crack that top 5. I believe you rode the horse Downright Amazing. Is that a horse you foresee might be one of those you'll consider to show this fall in the final?
Yep, Downright Amazing will be my horse for the million as long as all systems are go. So, I feel like that horse won the qualifier for me at Vegas, and Debbie Good was great to send him and give me the opportunity. So I feel like that spot belongs to him at the moment.
And he looks like a horse that's really kind of peaking, kind of coming into his own in the career. Always been a super talented horse. I remember 2-3 years ago at NRBC, probably had him winning it on my car, but he just looked a little immature in spots, and now he really looks like he's kind of aged well.
He has. That horse is great-minded. He never wants any trouble, and he does seem to get better with age. He's just been a real pleasure to train. At the Reign of Futurity that year, he was third when I had my neck in a brace, and he took care of me through all of that stuff. So he's certainly been a team player the whole time.
Well, I look forward to seeing him this fall. Now, Andrea, I'll turn to you. You brought some great horses to the finals in this event. I think about the run you had on Platinum Vintage, and then, of course, last year. What kind of special horse are you looking for that you feel like can finally put you over the top and help you add this title to that crowded mantle of yours?
It's funny because the 2 runs that I've had probably would have won most ratings with Platinum Vintage and last year with Trash Talking Spook. Who thinks that with a 234.5 you don't get to win the rating, right? So to me, those were the right picks. I did have the right horse. It was just that tough, and that is that tough of a competition. There's going to be 3, 4, 5 horses that are just really hard to beat. So I'm like Casey. I'm planning. Last year I qualified on All Bets Are Off, a horse that's been really good to me, and I think that will be probably my Run for the Million horse. But also I've learned that you got to kind of judge it at the last minute and kind of see these. It's hard to plan with these horses. They're athletes. We're trying to repeat the process time and time again, but you just never know. So I try to keep a little bit more of an open mind, but yeah, I do think that horse, just like Trash Talking Spook, I just showed it last week in Dallas, in Arlington, and he was great. So I do feel that I have the horses that have the power to do it. It's just, can you get it done that night? It's hard.
I really have loved Trash Talking Spook and how you've managed this last couple of years in his career, because he's really been your home run hitter, and he's delivered with scores over 230 here last year at Scottsdale, then at the Run for $1 Million, and then again at the American Performance Horseman. What a specialist to have in the barn.
It's a specialist, but it's a lot of work. And, a lot of people know because I'm pretty open about it. The owners know it. It's been one of probably the most difficult horses and challenges in my life as far as a trainer. But I just know how much talent he has, and that makes it worth it for me. For me to spend that kind of time on a horse that you don't feel has the capabilities to go mark those 77, 78s, it's really frustrating. But on an athlete like that, it makes it fun, It's been a horse that, like you said, I haven't been able to show it time and time again. I have to kind of pick and choose where I go. But here lately, seems like when I know where I'm going and I've got enough time to prepare him, he seems to deliver. So I'm hoping that he keeps doing that.
He does that. He's a spectacular individual. Now, Casey, I want to talk to you. I want to ask both you guys what your thoughts on some of these incredible events we've had lately. Does your preparation change at all, or your horse selection, knowing that the atmosphere when you show is going to be unlike a horse show in Waco or a horse show that normally, crowd noise comes into a factor, just the collective energy of a big crowd like that. How do you manage that? And what's the thought process that goes into you? Pump crowd noise into your arena? Or what do you do?
Well, you know, like
He actually does that.
Sure he does.
my wife actually does that. So she's always trying to think outside the box. But it's hard to get one ready for a situation like we had last week at Globe Life Field. That's not something that I know I don't think he's got access to, you know, a lot of baseball fields around here that let him go ride on them. But you have to just pick the right horse. You have to pick the one that adapts easily. You have to pick the one that is not distracted by a lot of stuff. And you got to pick the horse that really enjoys his job. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I know that horse loves what he does. So I know that even if things get loud or things get a little wild, I can count on him to be there and do his part. So it definitely makes the selection process different than just coming to, you know, an event that's maybe geared to make that horse compete to the best of its ability.
Sure. Now, Andrea, when you're prepping these horses for this, do you do things differently? Do you take out your verbal cues? Do you compensate for what you know that noise is going to be? And do you try to emulate that at home? Or?
Yeah, I try. You know, just like Casey said, it's hard to definitely replicate it. But for example, we'll take an example of the Globe Life Field last week. I knew that we didn't have much time to prep there. The arena time was limited. So I tried to really... I was lucky enough, we had the Sun Circuit here a couple of weeks ago, so I just traded my horse in and never rode him and went in and schooled him right off the trailer. I rode him with earplugs a lot at home. I like to put earplugs on the horses so that some of the noises, they camouflage them just a little bit. So I try, but at the end of the day, I do think that those great horses step up to the plate. You know, I was real worried because he's got a treasure horse that I showed. He's always pretty feely and scared, but you know what? I did my preparation at home. I led up to it. We just got there, did one ride in the arena, and when I was jogging him around, he felt ready to go. So I do think that sometimes we overthink it a little bit ourselves. These great horses that we're very lucky to have, sometimes they take care of us, I think.
They know their job because you guys both do a masterful job of preparing them. I want to talk to you about the qualifier we have on Saturday. 100 horses look like are entered, give or take a few. 10 spots are available to transfer to that run for $1 million. I want to ask you specifically, we've all noticed the influx of European horses and riders that have come here. And I got to tell you, they came off the trailer with an intensity level that the American riders kind of weren't used to. Like they're serious. And, you know, when I'm kind of looking down that list of horses and trying to handicap it, I feel like, and I want your feedback, 2 or 3 of those spots are going to be taken by the Europeans. Don't you feel like they've prepared to a level that they could really make some noise here?
For sure. Here in these last few years, they've definitely taken it to a whole different level. You know, there was people we used to see at the Reigning Futurity coming and trying it, and you know, you could tell that those horses were probably not in a familiar situation. And now we saw it last year with the guys that came over here with Mirko, and this year we've got Bernard, we've got people that have moved here just for that, you know. We've got Gennaro that moved his whole business, and seems like 20 assistant trainers here that are walking around everywhere. Everybody's got a visa and they're going to Scottsdale. So it's I think it's awesome, you know. I think it shows the world that it can be done, and it's an open dream that anybody can attain. And I do agree with you. When they come here, I really noticed Sierra last year at the NRBC and some of those. You know what, when you watch them, there's a different intensity. When you're willing to leave your own country, your family, the owners are spending a lot of money to send those horses here. I think that they do everything they can to make sure it happens. And I'm with you. I think this year 2 or 3 spots might be taken by those guys.
I think it's great, and I have to feel like you guys, as both just great competitors, you want to compete against literally the best the world has to offer. And I think that's what we're starting to see in our sport now. Prize money's gotten big enough. The incentives are big enough that the Europeans, they want to come test themselves against the best in the world too, so it should be good for everyone. Now, Casey, let me tie this together as I was breaking down that list of who's going to get those 10 spots. The interesting tie-in here, you have a number of horses entered. A couple for this man's son, Luca Fappani. Talk us a little bit about, and I feel like from an outsider looking in, you got to be thrilled to have, to use a sports analogy, assistant coach who's a coach's son, who knows how to prepare, who understands training. But he's also had to come in and learn new terminology, new system. How's that going, and what's his outlook like for this weekend?
You know, Steve, it's such an honor to get to have Luca on the team. I mean, that's a big plus for my company or my business to have a guy like Luca come in that's already done so much. He's so talented. And I've known him obviously growing up with our kids, but I haven't spent enough time with him before. But it's the thing about it that I've noticed is he's so smart and he's so hungry for it that, I mean, driving home from Tulsa, he's studying videos and asking about this and asking about that. I mean, that kid's hungry to do well, and he's very capable. And like I told him at the first of the year, I'm going to use you as much as you use me. You're eligible. You're going to go show a really great set of horses. I hope he learns a ton from me there. But I can tell you, I'm taking stuff that Andrea's taught him and using it at home. So so far it's felt like a win-win. And my goal is to get him in that top 5 spot.
Well, I'm excited to see him on Starfire 66. She's always been a favorite, and I know you and your staff had a lot of success on that mare, that royally bred mare. So I entered on her, and I got excited. I'm going to be ringside for that. I want to thank Andrea Fappani, Casey Deary for stopping in today. 2 riders who are already qualified for that exciting Run for a Million finals this fall. If you want to see who grabs those last 10 transfer spots, Westworld Arena is the place to be right here in the Equidome this Saturday, all day long. You can join us on the web for the live feed right here.